We're here for another segment of Italian Wine Ambassador Petra Belliti's Italian Wine Course, a passport to Italy. We're now on course number 7, where we're continuing to go south to Molise, to Puglia, and Calabria. And so without any further ado, Tiffany, if you would follow me, let's go in with our Italian Wine Ambassador.
Hello everybody, I missed you. It was a long time between last Thursday and today, but we're again together today. So we're gonna give a little bit of time to everybody to join. Let's give them a couple of minutes. But in the meantime, for those who are in, making sure you have the 2 correct wines ready to go, which is one is the Primitivo, Antico Sigillo, the Puglia wine, and then we're gonna take you to Calabria with the Ferrocinto Pollino Maiocco. So those are the 2 bottles that we're trying today. Again, while we wait, I would encourage everybody of you to take now the sip like you would take when you're out at a bar or restaurant, just enjoying and drinking without thinking too much. And then I'll ask you what you remember about that sip, and then we'll actually taste the wine, make it go everywhere in our nose and our mouth, and see how much we remember from that experience instead, okay? But as Randy said, today we're gonna move farther south. We started with a little bit more of southern region when we started discussing Abruzzo last week. And today we're gonna cover Molise, Puglia, and Calabria. I once again, and Randy will not forgive me for this today, sorry Randy, forgot to print my little map.
I'll get one for you.
Okay, thank you. In the meantime, I'll show you here though. So we got Molise, if you're able to see from where Randy is, right here.
I've zoomed in.
Perfect. So, little bit of coastal area, but mostly develops inland. Then we have Puglia, which is the heel of the boot of our country. And then we have Calabria, which is the tip of the boot of our country, okay? So those are the 3 regions that we're covering today, that they, actually Calabria and Puglia don't board. There's Basilicata in the middle that we're gonna cover on Thursday along with Campania. I say let's start, Randy.
Let's rock and roll.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So we're gonna start from Molise. Unfortunately, today we do not have a wine from Molise to try. It's not easy to come across wines from Molise. Very few distributors carry them. It is definitely not a huge wine production region for Italy, but still there's some very pretty wines that come from this region. And I will tell you, if anything, what you should possibly try to taste from Molise. It is the 2nd smaller region of Italy. Do you remember which one is the smallest? We actually covered that in one of our very first classes. I think number 2. Let me tell me, Randy, if somebody answers. What is the smallest region?
I don't see anybody yet.
Well, I guess I'll tell you. Farther up north, Valle d'Aosta, right up there on the border with France, so northwest of Italy. That would be number 1 smaller region of Italy. Molise ranks number 2. Winemaking actually started back in the days. We're talking 500 BC. Which then if you compare to Calabria, we're talking 2000 years BC. It's possibly a little bit young, but still, it was there. But let's remember that Molise, which is one of the reasons why the wine from Molise are less known, until 1963 was actually a commune region together with Abruzzo. It was the Abruzzo and Molise region together. Just in 1963, Molise achieved its independence as a region in Italy. And I think the winemaking then kind of was a little bit obscured from the winemaking in Abruzzo. That is definitely much more well known. It is definitely a largely rustic and archaic winemaking procedures is what you find mostly in Molise. It is a warm region. Unless you're, it's more Mediterranean toward the coast and more continental toward the inland, but it's still quite warm, so you get wines that are pretty deep and high in alcohol from this region. And it has 4 DOC, 4 DOC, and this is where I wanted to focus on the grapes you want to try from this region. I'd say the most special native variety from this region is called Tintilia. And there's a wine that's called Tintilia del Molise. So if you do come across Tintilia, that would be a very representative wine for this region. Or any wines that goes under the Biferno DOC. Let me write this down for you because you don't see it. But if you find wines that, and those are normally based on Montepulciano d'Abruzzo, a variety that we discussed last week, and Aglianico. Those would be the main two grapes used. So take notes. Biferno. Okay, so this is a wine that you may want to try from Molise, always in most cases a blend. And you want to try this variety, which is the most important native variety of Molise, which is called Tintilia. Okay? And the Tintilia, just so you know, when you do drink a wine made of Tintilia, they're definitely quite full-bodied. They have a nice intensity in terms of aromatics with spices, flowers, licorice, ripe red fruit for sure, leather, tobacco, and nice mineral floats, flint, mostly for those produced on the coastal area. You also get a very nice saline, maritime expression in the wine. And again, it is the only native variety of Molise, because then the plantings are, for the red grapes, are mostly Montepulciano and Aglianico, which are non-native of Molise, but still of southern Italy. And then for the whites, you mostly find the Trebbiano Toscano, that we talked about a little bit before for other regions, Bombino Bianco, that we're gonna find kind of all over the southern of Italy, and Malvasia Bianca Lunga. Those would be the most important varieties for the area. And that's in terms of food, Molise is actually quite well known for black truffles. There is a nice growing of black truffles in the area, and caciocavallo, a cheese, you know, the one that is shaped in that very, let me show it to you from my computer. That is caciocavallo, the picture on your left. See it? So you understand what I'm talking about. And that's also, for example, a very typical product of Puglia. So you find a lot of caciocavallo production in the southern part of Italy, which is pretty much dried, sometimes smoked, but we call it scamorza. In that case, mozzarella pretty much is 100% cow cheese. Now, without further ado, unless you have questions, I'm gonna move to Calabria. Now, Calabria was, as you can imagine, we're talking about the art of Magna Grecia. So when the Greeks arrived to the southern part of Italy, this was kind of the art of it, okay? With Calabria, Sicily, and then parts of Campania, parts of Puglia, but those were the most important part of what was called Magna Grecia when the Greeks arrived. And there were vines there, even starting from the 2000 BC, as I mentioned earlier, talking and comparing Calabria to Molise. So a very, very old viticultural tradition. That being said, unfortunately, Calabrian wines today are not very well known. There were kind of phases that somehow take away from Calabria the power that Calabria had in ancient times. Calabria, along with Sicily, for example, was big producers of wine that was brought all up through the Roman Empire, and then later also Jews like Puglia also that would go up to the northern regions of Italy to cut other kind of wines produced. Then French wines came along, Bordeaux, and then inexpensive domestic wine produced internationally, including us, California. So Campania pretty much couldn't compete with its wines that well on the market. Therefore, today we're talking about an agricultural-based, rural-based region, but just 3% of the total agriculture is devoted to actually viticulture. So very, very little wine production. Yes, I'd say that their economy mostly is dependent on cereal, citrus, and olives, a lot of olives. What else can we say? Main characteristic of the region, Mediterranean climate, as you can see. It's like a peninsula surrounded by the sea on almost every border except for the northern border, and it's the Mar to the western north part of the peninsula, and then the Mar Ionio to the southeastern part of the peninsula. So definitely that plays a big role in terms of the microclimates and the weather influence that you may get being a peninsula surrounded from so much water. Today we're going to try one wine from there, which is made with one of the most important native variety of Calabria, which is Maiocco. I have it written here for you, and it's written on the bottle that you have. Pollino actually refers to a very, very famous mountain, which is now a natural park, and this winery, Ferrocinto, is actually based on the slope of this very famous mountain. That's where the name comes from, Pollino Maiocco. The other very important red grape for Calabria would be Gaioppo. I think I wrote it. Let me see if I haven't, I wrote it now, because that would be something else that if you find it around, you may want to try. And I'm also going to write down the name of a producer, which I consider to be a benchmark producer for Calabria, which is Librandi. So Gaioppo, it would be #1 red native grape of Calabria. There's definitely more plantings of Gaioppo than Maiocco, which is the one we're having today. And Librandi is the producer that I was referring to, that you may want to try some wines made from him in Calabria. Then in terms of white grapes, it's the most planted one, it's a Greco Bianco. Now for the wine connoisseur out there, not to be confused with the Greco grown in Calabria. There are two different grapes. So you have Greco Bianco in Calabria and then you have Greco in Campania, okay? So two different grapes, very similar name. And then you find Trebbiano Toscano, you find Malvasia Bianca, you find Mantonico Bianco, it's another grape from that area. As per the reds, beside the Gaioppo and the Maiocco that we're gonna have today, you find growings of Nerello Mascalese and Nerello Cappuccio, varieties that we're gonna discuss a little bit when we're gonna cover Sicily. And then Montonico, very similar to the white grape we just mentioned, which was Mantonico, talking about losing your mind when you study the wines from Calabria. And then again the Maiocco and Maiocco Canino that I mentioned earlier. In terms of food from Calabria, well, who doesn't know Anduja? So Anduja is the typical spicy spreading sausage that we make in Calabria. Of course, chili peppers, so the little red peppers. Calabria has a cuisine that can be quite spicy, but it also a very, very gastronomy. We would say a mari e monti gastronomy, where there's things like mushrooms, etc., that come from the inland and from the mountains, but also, of course, being a peninsula, a lot of seafood, as you can imagine. And that covers Calabria. Any questions or curiosity about Calabria before I move to Puglia? Oh, there we go. Now let me make letters here. C, P, M. Now I'm gonna come closer to make sure that you all guys see it better. So the red part is Puglia, okay? Where I made the M is Molise, and then the C on Calabria. So you understand exactly where we are. So Puglia, okay, so we're going from two regions where the wine production is quite small compared to other regions of Italy, to possibly one of the highest volume production regions of Italy, along with Veneto that we discussed, also Sicily, in terms of volumes. Puglia also is very famous for producing a lot of wines that can be sold in bulks toward northern Italy or other states, to reinforce, to give structure to wines when the vintage is not that generous in terms of sunshine. So definitely they go and look at southern regions to add to their blending something that they're missing. So Puglia produces a lot of that wine too. But I'd say between the 90s and the beginning of the new century, there has been a switch of focus from high quantities of production to start working on the quality. Now today, again, we are talking about South Italy, And one of the things I want to mention about the wines we're going to have, try to remember other reds that we tried in previous sessions coming from north or central Italy, and see the difference between these wines. Because today you're going to try wines that come from very hot microclimates area. So while in Piemonte, Friuli-Venezia, Giulia, Alto, Adige, we talk about producers having to fight with Mother Nature in order to get perfect ripeness of the grapes before harvest and produce a wine that is complete from a phenolic point of view. Down south, they have the opposite problem. How do I avoid my grapes to mature too much, to develop too much sugar content, to have too much alcohol content, therefore, from the sugar, and to kind of have this taste of cooked fruits? Because the grape, when it's very, very hot, pretty much it's cooking on the vine, right? So they have the complete opposite problems that they have in northern regions. But now they're really trying to correct this issue, and with winemaking styles, with what they do in terms of harvest, with what they do in managing the vineyards. And I'd say that now you really start to get very, very high quality wines from the southern of Italy, and Puglia that we're talking about in specific. Puglia can be kind of divided in 3 winemaking areas, going from the north to the south, with focus on different varietals. So for example, in the north is where you're going to have the more plantings of Montepulciano d'Abruzzo, Aglianico, and grapes such as that. In the center, you have kind of a mix between the two, and also lots of production of whites. And in this part is where you have the most well-known grapes from Puglia, like Primitivo and Negramaro. They are actually grown in the southern part. So the Primitivo that we're having today is from the area called Manduria, which is in the southern part of Puglia, okay? Another characteristic of Puglia is that among all the wine-making regions of Italy, it's one of those that have the majority of the vines planted on flat areas. So Puglia has a lot of plains, and the majority of the vine growing actually happens on plains. That, as we know, it's some wine people might say not ideal, right? The ideal spots to grow grapes, it's actually on the slope of hills. But in Puglia, the winemaking is focused on the flatlands. Now, the Primitivo we're having today, though, it's made at a little bit of an altitude. I think it might be like 150 to 100 meters above sea level. So it is the Primitivo, the style that I personally like, where it's not too jammy, not too fruit forward. We're gonna talk about it more later, but this is kind of the style that I go. When they're very, very jammy, I don't really care for them, but that's my personal taste. Talking to you about, some of you might be mostly domestic wine consumers. Wines from the south might be, to start your adventure in getting to know Italian wines, maybe a little bit more approachable for you. Because those are, because of the climate, because of the varieties that they use, they have some more similarities to our domestic wines from California. They're not gonna be as astringent. They're gonna be a little bit more fruit forward. The acidity is gonna be not as evident as in a Sangiovese or a Nebbiolo. So maybe it's a good approach, because they're still very different, more earthy, etc., but a little bit more approachable for those who are not used to the high tannin structure and acidity of Italian wines. Moving forward, in terms of varieties from Puglia, of course, in the whites, the most used one are Bombino Bianco, Trebbiano Toscano, Moscato, Verdeca, which is one of the white native grapes, along with Fiano, that's called Fiano Minutolo, little one over there. There's also quite a few plantings of Chardonnay. As per the reds, I think Primitivo is the most important grape from Campania, and then Negro Amaro, and then Uva di Troia, which I forgot to mention, but in the northern part, lots of blends are made with this grape that's called Uva di Troia, the grape from Troy. And then Bombino Nero, Malvasia Nera, yes, there are also red Malvasia, Susumaniello, and then Aglianico, okay? Those are the main varieties of the area. Very important also Puglia for the production of olive oils. They have these beautiful olive trees that are so different from the one that I grew up with in Tuscany. I'll show you a picture of them. Look at this olive tree. I'm gonna try to do my best in putting the computer there. look at this chubby, weird olive tree. Those are the olive trees that you find in Puglia. And Puglia is, it's considered to be a very, very high quality production region for olive oil as well. And then pizza and breads, lots of them in Puglia. The tarallini. Ooh, which one of you had that? Somebody called them tarallini, somebody called them tarallucci, but they're like little tiny donuts made pretty much of water and flour. Some have fennel inside, or they can make it with spices, but beautiful, amazing little snack. Something that I would always buy when I'm in Italy and I stop in an auto grill, you know, those places in the autostrada where you can do some shopping or a break for a coffee or something on the way. You will always find tarallini. That would be one of the things I grab to eat in the car while we're driving somewhere. And then, of course, the cheeses. Again, we have also scamorza and caciocavallo there too, and other beautiful, mostly cow-based cheeses. Now, I think we can move to the wines because we're getting there. We have 8 minutes left. Oh my goodness. So I think we need to start from the one from Calabria. So let's start with the Majocco, okay? So Majocco, let me show you again the name of the grape. Assuming I find my piece of paper. Sorry, there it is. So Majocco, but you have it written on the bottle too. Just showing this for those who might not have the kit, so that they cannot look at the bottle. So native variety from Calabria. The characteristic of Majocco definitely is gonna give you a fruit-forward wine with smooth tannins. It's a grape that is drought resistant, which is perfect for a place like Calabria where, as in Puglia, it doesn't really rain that much. So working with grapes that have a better resistant in drought periods, it's definitely something that is desirable. And it's high vigorous, so it produces quite a bit. The notes that you may find in this wine, first of all, you got that sip earlier. Do you remember much about that experience? Probably not, right? Because your brain was not on the wine. You were just having a sip of wine because you wanted to drink a sip of wine, which is fine. But now let's look at that, smell it, and taste it. And it's a completely different experience, which I don't recommend you to do when you go out for dinner to have fun, of course. It's just here for learning purposes. So we start from the color. Now remember some of the other wines we tried, like the Schiava, or the Sangiovese, or the Nebbiolo. You can see here definitely a higher intensity in the color, right? Would you agree with me? I guess you do. It's fairly young. We're drinking a 2016. I think it's actually perfect because the fruit has gone down a little bit. It's not as jammy. But sorry, let's start smelling it. Okay, if you ask me, sweet black cherries. Some almost exotic fruit aromas that I'm not sure I can give a name on, but there's that kind of sweetness on the nose. Maybe a hint of tobacco and without the H, underbrush. A hint of herbs. Let's try it now. You see, the tannins are there, but they're quite smooth and silky. They don't create that much friction in your mouth. I hope you agree with me. On the palate, I even feel maybe the tobacco notes a little bit more, and the herbs, earthy. It's a very nice balance between fruit and then tertiary notes, such as tobacco, herbs, and things like that. I don't know if you agree, but I definitely find it that way. Okay, that was the Majocco. Maybe for most of you may have been the first Majocco ever, but that's what it is. It's 100% Majocco. Just so you know, in terms of information, it does 6 months in used French barriques. So there is a little bit of oak in this, even though, I'll smell it again, but also because it's used oak, it's really not that predominant. I hope you agree with me. But again, you might not, which is fine. now, let's move to the Primitivo. Now, the first question that I have about Primitivo, and I want to say a couple more things about the variety itself. Who knows what the grape is? Meaning, Primitivo actually is the same of a very, very important grape that we grow a lot domestically, mostly here in California. California is very famous for this grape. Now, Randy's not here. I'm going to reach for my phone so that I can see if somebody's answering to that. Let me see. Yes, Miss Lisa Mayer, you got it right. So, Primitivo and Zinfandel share the same DNA. Now, will this Primitivo taste like the average or normal Zinfandel that you normally drink? No. It's definitely more on the darker side, if you ask me. Unless you get into very important Zinfandel here in California, I think they're all quite lighter than this, more kind of on the strawberry side compared to this one that to me has more like dark fruits notes I tasted earlier, but now we're gonna taste it together. So let's go ahead and look at the color. Typical of Primitivo. Primitivo is dark, deeply colored. In terms of the organoleptic characteristic of the grape, you normally are gonna try find the ripe red cherry, strawberry jam, which I definitely smell, plums. They even talk about plants macerated in alcohol, if you can think about what that would smell like. They talk about Primitivo as a wine with a very creamy, rich palate. Can everybody follow me if I say creamy texture? There's a very simple way to explain that, and I'm gonna tell you. Think about, this is important for when you kind of want to describe the palate of both a white or a red. Think about milk. You have skim milk, you have oat milk, and you have heavy cream, okay? So a wine can remind you in terms of palate sensation, palate texture, non-fat milk, which means that it's definitely not creamy, probably a lighter body kind of wine. It can be like oat milk, okay, we're starting to talk a little bit more round. And then we talk about wines that remind you the sensation of when you get a sip of heavy cream. Does that make sense for you? So normally when they use the terminology creamy or not creamy, the mind goes to milk and the difference in the texture of non-fat, whole milk, and half and half, or sorry, heavy cream. I hope that helps you to understand what I mean when I say that this, for example, to me, it's a creamy, quite rich palate, okay? What do you smell? Beside, definitely there are ripe red cherries, definitely I do smell the strawberry jam, so those are all typical characteristic of the grape. And you understand when I talked about that almost, that nose that should remind you of a little bit of stew fruits. Again, that's typical of wines from warmer areas where the grape really reach a great maturity. And now let's taste it. You see this one, lots of Primitivo are often produced in an ultra ripe, syrupy Zinfandel style. This one is not. Maybe where the vineyards are, maybe the altitudes, possibly how great they are. By the way, the family, the producer is Claudio Quarta, and his daughter Alessandra Quarta was here at Solare not too long ago. We purchased this wine, and then the rep told her, you should go see this guy at Solare, they're amazing. So she came in, we didn't know each other, she just sat at the bar. I think she spent here 3-4 hours. We really became friends, me, her, and Tommy, and had a lot of fun with her that night. Beautiful, beautiful person. Alessandra, maybe you'll see this video one day. We want to say hi, hope everything is okay. They're in Puglia. But this one, again, I love it because it's very balanced. But you see what I mean. Primitivo, definitely you're not going to get, it's not a super acidic variety, and the tannins tend to be not as astringent as other varietals like Nebbiolo, Sangiovese. Sorry I mention always those, but I want to make sure that I make example with wines that you've already tasted. It's not going to have the tannins of a Cabernet Sauvignon unless they do a lot of wood aging. In that case, maybe the wine will get more complex and will get a lot of tannins from the oak that I don't necessarily like, but that would be another style. That's also another thing in the south where they're doing the step now toward higher quality. They are trying to get away from an excessive use of oak, which I'm very happy about. So very, very pretty Primitivo. What did you think? Did you like them? Now, like 2 minutes of open discussions. If there's questions or anything, want to know which one of the two you prefer. If you want to give me your opinion. In the meantime, while you write, other wines that you may want to try from Puglia, definitely try their Negro Amaro, another very good example of native variety and great wines from Puglia. You may want to try a wine that's called Salice Salentino, which is also beautiful, and it's a blend of Primitivo and Negro Amaro. You might want to try the Fiano coming from there, very different from the one produced in Campania, but also very nice. Moscato, they make Moscato both in sweet and dry style from Puglia, and they're very good. You might want to have fun and try, which I did, a couple of different producers, and it's very interesting, and you find them on the market. I mentioned this is Susu, but I don't think that unless you see it written down, you can follow me. That's a tough one to say, right? You want to try?
Susmanella?
Very close. Susu Maniello, okay? So you can find them. You can always email me if you want. I can tell you which distributors have it and which places. We don't have a Susu Maniello in-house at the moment, but we might fix that. But that would be a fun wine from Puglia to try as well. And then, again, Puglia is a beautiful region also to go and simply hang out on the beach. You have the Golfo del Gargano, which is up here in the northern side. Beautiful, beautiful beaches, amazing food, amazing people. You're gonna go there and see what's called, I'm gonna write it here, trulli. Have you ever heard about trulli? I want you to go and Google that after the class. Write it down, trulli. Those are the typical little houses that you'll see when you walk in the little streets of Puglia that are all made in, what is it? It's all white rock pretty much, and they're tiny, and you walk into these touristic or non-touristic areas, and that's a typical ancient building, trulli, that you find in Puglia. They're so cute. So definitely a region where you can have a beautiful, I would go there in the spring or early summer. If you ask me the perfect period for Puglia, or maybe September when you can still enjoy the sea because it's gorgeous over there. And
is it super hot in like July and August?
July and August is very hot, so I would avoid those months also because it's lots of Italians goes there in vacation too from the northern region. It's just beautiful. It's not as expensive as Sardinia or the Tuscany coast or the Amalfi coast. So yeah.
There's just a question. So barrels in Italy in general, but certainly the Puglia wine you have here, what kind of barrels do they use? There's a feeling by at least one of your attendees that maybe smells like more like vanilla than they expected.
The Primitivo?
The Primitivo.
So they in theory do 6 months in French barrique, not necessarily used. So it makes sense that you smell a little bit more oak in the Primitivo than in the Majocco, that instead, as I mentioned, was still done in French barriques, but second passage. So you should feel the wood a little bit less in the Majocco. That being said, I would say that the majority use French oak when we're talking about barriques. But in Italy, there's a big use compared to here domestically of what we call Slavonian oak, mostly for the production of wines as Brunello and Barolo. So those are botti, big containers that are made of Slavonian oak, and even chestnut. There are some producers that are still using chestnut in terms of wood aging. Not many, but there still are there.
And our very good friends, Karen and Mark, they were saying they were supposed to actually stay in a Trulli this summer in Puglia. Unfortunately, plans probably got changed, but that was a really good point you brought up. Everybody should Google it, like Petra said. It's very, very cool.
Yeah, indeed. Thank you, Karen. And I hope you get to go in your Trullo very, very soon. It's still there, don't worry about it. It's been there for centuries. We'll wait for you.
So Trullo would be one, Trulli is plural.
Correct.
Okay.
Trullo is one, Trulli is two.
And Liz Lacey G is trying the Negromaro from Puglia right now in Minnesota.
Oh, very good. So you're drinking a Negromaro. How do you like that? Wonder if she has a comment. Are you happy with your Negromaro?
I am watching to see if she does,
I don't know
but it's 8 o'clock at night there, so maybe the fireflies are out. That's one thing they get to have in Minnesota we don't have is, besides the mosquitoes, there's lots of really beautiful fireflies.
The fireflies are the one that blink in the night, right?
They do, yeah.
Yes, was one of my favorite activities as a little girl, running in my olive groves and catch them. And in Italy, unfortunately, I'm gonna say this, it's torture for the little animal, but you would catch one, put it under a glass during the night, and your parents would give you a coin or money the following morning. I'm hoping that they always came and released the little bug before he was dead, but I don't know. All I know is that I found the money there the following morning.
All I know is...
I'll ask my father.
Just to be clear, PETA does track you on these wine classes, so I'm going to be cutting that piece out.
As you should.
So your parents paid you to capture insects?
Yes, but I would just get one.
One,
They would pay me
okay.
for
Just one.
Just one. It was nice to have it on my nightstand, blinking through the night until he wasn't anymore. Anyway, guys, I hope you like these wines, and I hope you were able to understand. I mean, I feel it, even alcohol level, right? Those wines are a little bit more alcoholic than the one we tried from other regions. For those who don't have the bottle, the Primitivo you're having is 15%. The Majocco you had earlier, fairly lower, 13.5, but definitely this Primitivo, I'm feeling it. I don't know about you, but it's powerful. But I hope you like them. I guess I'm gonna see you Thursday with class number 8, and we're gonna cover Campania and Basilicata. And I wanna know who's smart enough to tell me what is gonna be the red grape that we're gonna cover that puts together Campania and Basilicata.
I know.
Now Randy can't answer.
We have Jim on the line, he should know. We have Marco, my stay-so, he should know.
Marco!
We have Lisa and Mark, they know. They're probably just being shy.
Anyway, we're gonna talk about Aglianico. Aglianico, together with Nebbiolo and Sangiovese, is one of the 3 most important noble grapes of Italy. So we're gonna cover that, which is produced in both regions. And we're gonna talk about Falanghina and all the other beautiful wines coming from those regions. And unless there's anything else, I'm gonna let you go. Yeah.
I have one thing to add.
Yes.
Is a lot of the people that are on your class right now are obviously very into wine, very into what you're doing, Petra. You and I designed something really fun around a epic wine lunch for this Saturday. So let me just say a few words, and then I'm going to pass it off to you to kind of bring it home. But just so everybody knows, I'll just do the logistics, and Petra will say why it's fun. But this Saturday, you're the first to hear it, I think, except for Karen and Mark, who we told that when they were here yesterday. But this Saturday at noon, if you don't have plans, we're going to be doing a very epic Italian lunch where we have the owner and the winemaker from a Italian winery in Piemonte that makes beautiful Barolos and Barbarescos. We're going to do a Zoom call, so not Instagram Live, but a Zoom call so we can all be more interactive and participate. It's only going to be available for 15 couples or groups. But what you do is you come by Solare. We're going to have a great meal ready for you that I believe you can even pick up on Friday, so you don't have to worry about last minute things on Saturday. We're going to have, is it 2 or 3 wines?
3 wines, and I'm going to put just these up.
Oh, I was going to save that for the end, but keep it up there. We're going to have 3 wines, but the short story is, assuming you're up for an epic big lunch on Saturday at noon, you want to give us a call here at Solare or email us right away, because we're only going to make it available for 15 groups, not groups, but couples, 15 people that would show up on a Zoom screen.
Yeah, 15 cameras.
And then what I thought I'd say for you, Petra, is you could talk about Orlando, you could talk about the winery and where it's located.
So Pequenino, we are in the Langhe, and he produces mostly his focus on Dolcetto and Nebbiolo. So he does Dolcetto, he does different, he does Nebbiolo, and then he does a couple of different Barolos. And then he also works with Chardonnay in the Langhe. So the wines that we're gonna serve for this luncheon are gonna be the Chardonnay, the Dolcetto, and his Barolo. but that's what you're getting. And everybody will get the groups that will sign up will get a bottle of each. So that's how we're doing it. It's not gonna be like a wine dinner where you just get your 3 ounces, but you actually have the full bottle of all the wines we're gonna present.
And by a group, just so everybody knows, we kind of mean 2 people. So that means each person gets 1.5 bottles of wine, which is my kind of a Saturday lunch.
Yep.
Clearly, if you're going to be 4 together, that's different. But we're just kind of thinking that 15 couples, all in a different Zoom window, hanging out with Orlando, super great guy.
Yes.
He's going to be right there at his winery. He's going to talk exactly what's going on, all live with you. So here's a chance to have lunch with one of the best winemakers in Piemonte, with all the food and all the wine provided for you. All you have to do is fire up Zoom and be happy.
Exactly, and I hope you can join. It'll be fun. It's gonna be hopefully the first one of many that we might do as an alternative to our dining in wine dinners that we're hope to start doing again very, very soon. But in the meantime, we're trying to be creative and find a way to make you have a closer experience to that. Being able to see Piemonte, be able to see the person behind the bottle of wine that you're drinking. So we hope that you want to join us. So just let us know. Okay? Any other question? We're good?
I don't have anything other than some people saying, sign me up.
Perfect.
And Baseball Mom Sack says it is a wine pairing lunch. Yeah, heck yeah, it's a wine pairing lunch.
Yeah.
There's also a question on the cost. We think the cost is going to be, I think it worked out to be, give or take, 90 a person?
Yes, pretty much.
Give or take. Don't quote us on, we're working the details.
Yeah,
this is all happening in real time.
And we're thinking, we have a menu to go along, but we're thinking in order to get the Zoom invite, all you have to do is commit to the purchase of, no?
Oh, whatever. Yeah, no,
yes,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
You can get the 3 bottles. If you don't feel about like a big meal on Saturday, but you do wanna participate and taste the wines, you can get the bottles. Now, I'm gonna be honest, Randy's giving me weird eyes, but I thought we discussed this. So anyway, you will get all the details very soon. But it's not gonna be crazy expensive, but remember when we price it that you're actually getting the full bottles and not the tasting like you normally do a wine dinner in-house. So we have to factor that in.
Yeah, we do. I mean, we're not apologizing, but we're just pointing out that this is not going to be a cheap lunch because we're talking about an epic Barolo,
Correct.
single vineyard Barolo. We're talking about very high-end Dolcetto, Chardonnay, and we're going to do an epic lunch. So I highly recommend doing it if you can. Main thing is there's going to be 15 windows in Zoom. So let's assume 15 couples and sign up. And Karen I'm going to actually just give you a call as soon as this is done. Lisa's asking, because people are probably zooming in and out, who's the producer? If you just let them know again.
It's a Pequenino. Okay? I might have a bottle here. No, I don't. Okay, but Pequenino.
Pequenino and Orlando, who's the winemaker and owner, is just a great guy. Question from Lori, is there a chance of any of the food items being gluten-free? I think maybe the entire meal is gluten-free. I don't know. We'll look at it, but certainly we do. I mean, we are so on top of gluten-free. Never worry about that for a second with anything we do. Never worry about that.
Agree.
Okay.
I guess bye everybody and see you Thursday for Campania and Basilicata. Ciao, ciao.